My son-in-law just tried to steal my $2.3 million farm at my daughter's wedding reception. I'm Deborah Fleming. What happened next destroyed his career, his marriage, and exposed a criminal enterprise that had been stealing from black families like mine for 6 years. Brandon Carter thought he'd found the perfect victim. A simple North Carolina farmer, 59 years old, black woman managing nearly $3.2 million in assets without professional help. Brandon spent 9 months convincing my daughter Jasmine that her old mama was too confused to handle complex finances, that I needed guidance from someone educated, someone who understood how the modern world worked. Tonight was supposed to be his big payday. Brandon brought fake legal documents, a fake notary, and 200 wedding guests to pressure me into signing over everything my family had built across 5 generations. What Brandon didn't know was that I'm a retired Fortune 500 forensic accountant who'd been investigating his elder abuse operation for 5 months, and I had recordings, lots of recordings. The audio I played at the reception, Brandon's voice discussing his payday from the old black woman who won't read the fine print, that was just the beginning. By the time Detective Hayes led Brandon away in handcuffs, we'd exposed a criminal network that had stolen $18 million from elderly victims, most of them black landowners, across 4 states. Brandon called me a simple farmer who needed professional guidance. Turns out this simple farmer knew exactly how to dismantle professional predators. Want to see how quiet strategy can destroy loud arrogance? Hit that subscribe button. I've got stories about people who learned the hard way that underestimating someone can be the most expensive mistake of your life. Here's how my daughter's perfect wedding became Brandon Carter's perfect nightmare. Let me back up 9 months. That's when Brandon Carter first walked into my life, arm in arm with my daughter Jasmine at Sunday dinner. 36 years old, sharp suit, Duke law degree hanging in his Raleigh office, partner at Carter & Associates specializing in what he called elder law and estate preservation. The way he said it, you'd think he was doing the Lord's work helping confused old folks. From day one, Brandon talked to me like I was hard of hearing, slow, loud, overly patient. "Deborah, how are you doing today?" Like I was 85 instead of 59. Jasmine ate it up. "Mama, Brandon knows so much about estate planning. You should really listen to him. This farm has been in our family for 5 generations. We need to protect it properly." Brandon would pat my shoulder. "Jasmine's right, Miss Deborah. You're a hard-working woman who built something beautiful here. But managing an 850-acre operation worth $2.3 million, that requires professional expertise, someone with legal training. Simple woman." He said it at least once every visit. During Thanksgiving dinner, Brandon started his campaign in earnest. "Miss Deborah, I've been thinking about your situation. 850 acres is a lot of responsibility for someone your age. And with your family's history, the heir property issues, the tax complications, you're vulnerable in ways you might not understand." "I manage just fine," I said, cutting my sweet potato pie. "Of course you do." Brandon leaned forward, all concern. "But think about what happens if something happens to you. Jasmine would inherit a nightmare. Heir property laws in North Carolina are complicated. Without proper legal structure, your family could lose everything to distant relatives, tax liens, forced partition sales. I've seen it happen to black farming families over and over." He wasn't wrong about the vulnerability. Black families in the South have lost millions of acres to exactly those problems. That's what made Brandon's scheme so calculated. He was weaponizing our community's real trauma. Jasmine nodded along. "Mama, maybe Brandon has a point. I've been reading about heir property issues. We should at least look at his recommendations." "I've been thinking," Brandon continued, "we should set up a family trust, professional management. I could serve as trustee, handle all the complicated legal work. Take that burden off your shoulders so you can just enjoy the farm." I kept eating. "I'll think about it." But Brandon wasn't done. Every visit brought new pressure, new reasons why a simple farmer like me needed his help. Christmas Eve. Miss Deborah, do you even know what your timber rights are worth? The pecan market is changing. You need professional oversight before you lose opportunities. New Year's Day. I looked at your property taxes. You're paying way too much. With proper legal structuring, I could save you $55,000 a year. That's real money, Miss Deborah. Valentine's Day. Jasmine showed me your will. 1 page. That won't protect your legacy. Your daughter could lose everything you've worked for. Each time, Jasmine supported him. Mama, Brandon's just trying to help. Why are you being so stubborn about this? But it was the way Brandon's family treated me that really revealed who they were. Easter dinner at their house felt like walking into a corporate law firm. Brandon's father, Robert, senior partner. His mother, Patricia, retired judge. His brother, Michael, corporate counsel for a pharmaceutical company. They talked around me like I wasn't there, or worse, like I was the help. Brandon's doing important work, Patricia said, not quite looking at me, helping people who can't help themselves. So many of these folks built modest wealth, but lack the sophistication to protect it. These folks. I was sitting right there. Robert nodded. Elder law is necessary work. Particularly in communities where financial literacy is limited, they need guidance from people who understand complex legal structures. Brandon would translate everything for me, speaking slowly. They're discussing trust law, Miss Deborah, complex legal concepts, nothing you need to worry about. The breaking point came in April. Brandon brought documents to Sunday dinner, thick legal papers in a leather portfolio. I took the liberty of drafting preliminary trust documents, he announced. Just to show you what we're talking about, Miss Deborah. I glanced at the first page. Irrevocable Family Trust. Grantor, Deborah Fleming. Trustee, Brandon Carter. This gives me full authority to manage the farm, Brandon explained like he was talking to a child. Sell parcels when necessary for your benefit, reinvest proceeds, make all the complicated decisions. You just relax and enjoy your retirement. What's in it for you? I asked. Brandon smiled. Just the satisfaction of helping family. Though there is a standard trustee fee, 2.5% annually. Very reasonable in the industry. 2.5% of $3.2 million was $80,000 every year, for life. I need time to think. Brandon's expression tightened. Of course, but Miss Deborah, time is critical in estate planning. Every day you wait, you're exposed to risks. Legal challenges, tax liabilities, potential claims on the property. I've seen families lose everything because they waited too long. After they left, I sat on my porch looking at those 850 acres. 5 generations of Flemings had worked this land. My great-great-grandfather bought the first 60 acres in 1898, just 33 years after emancipation. We'd survived Jim Crow, the Depression, integration, every attempt to take our land. And now a smooth-talking attorney thought he could steal it with fancy documents and fear tactics. Brandon thought I was just some simple farmer who got lucky. He had no idea I'd spent 30 years as a forensic accountant at a Fortune 500 company before I came home to farm. I'd audited corporations, tracked financial fraud, knew more about manipulation than he'd learned in law school. That night, I made a decision. The next morning, I called a private investigator in Raleigh. Sarah Chen came highly recommended, specialized in financial fraud cases. I need you to look into someone for me. Brandon Carter, attorney at Carter & Associates. I want to know everything. How deep do you want me to dig? Sarah asked. Deep enough to find out if he's done this before. Deep enough to know if I'm crazy for not trusting him. What's your gut telling you? That my daughter married a predator. But I need proof, not just a mother's instinct. What Sarah found over the next 5 months would confirm my worst fears. But in those early weeks, I had nothing but suspicion and a growing sense that something was very wrong. Brandon's visits became more frequent, more insistent. He'd show up with new documents, new arguments, new reasons why I needed to sign over control immediately. Miss Deborah, I've been researching your property records. Did you know there are 14 potential heirs who could claim interest in this land? Distant cousins, relatives you've never met? Under North Carolina's heir property laws, any one of them could force a partition sale. You'd lose everything. I've managed this farm for 35 years without losing it. But you're getting older. What happens when you can't manage anymore? What if something happens to your health? Jasmine isn't equipped to fight off legal challenges. She needs protection, and that means professional trust management. The way he said getting older made my skin crawl. Like I was already incompetent, just too stubborn to admit it. But here's what Brandon didn't know. I'd been keeping detailed records of every conversation, every document he brought, every pressure tactic, every subtle threat disguised as concern. My forensic accounting training hadn't left me. I knew how to build a case. I also started noticing things. The way Brandon would steer Jasmine away when I tried to discuss finances with her privately. The way he'd interrupt if I asked too many questions about his firm's other clients. The way his eyes would flicker with irritation when I didn't immediately agree to his suggestions. "Mama, why are you being so difficult about this?" Jasmine asked me one Sunday after Brandon had left, frustrated again by my refusal to sign anything. "Baby, I'm not being difficult. I'm being careful." "Careful about what?" "Brandon is trying to help us. He's trying to make sure we don't lose the farm." "Is he? Or is he trying to make sure he gets control of it?" Jasmine's face went cold. "That's not fair. Brandon loves me. He loves this family. Just because you don't trust anyone doesn't mean everyone is out to get us." "I never said I don't trust anyone." "Yes, you do. You've never liked any man I've dated. You investigated Michael in college, remember? You hired someone to run a background check on Terrence. You made David feel so uncomfortable he broke up with me. Now you're doing it again with Brandon." She wasn't wrong. I had investigated her previous boyfriends. I'd found a gambling problem with one, discovered another was still married. I'd protected her, but at the cost of making her feel controlled, smothered. "Jasmine, this is different." "No, Mama, it's not different. It's you not being able to let go. It's you not trusting me to make my own decisions. Brandon is my husband. I chose him. And if you can't respect that, then maybe you need to step back from this family." Those words hit hard. Step back from this family. Like I was the problem. Like I was the one causing damage. After she left, I sat in the farmhouse my great-great-grandfather built and wondered if I was losing my mind. Was Brandon really a predator? Or was I a paranoid old woman who couldn't accept that her daughter had grown up and married someone successful? That's when Sarah Chen called with her first report. "Deborah, I found something. Brandon Carter has handled 23 estate cases in the past 4 years. In 19 of those cases, he was named trustee. In 17 cases, the elderly client died within 3 years of signing over control, and in 15 cases, the estates were significantly depleted by the time the heirs received anything." My blood went cold. Depleted how? Trustee fees, legal expenses, consulting costs, property management fees, all technically legal, but the pattern is clear. Brandon takes control, then systematically drains the assets while keeping everything above board on paper. What about the families? Did anyone complain? 2 families filed complaints with the North Carolina State Bar. Both complaints were dismissed due to insufficient evidence. Brandon's very good at covering his tracks. Every fee is documented, every expense justified. On paper, he's providing legitimate services, but the cumulative effect is financial exploitation. Are there any criminal investigations? Not yet. But Deborah, there's something else. 18 of those 23 clients were Black landowners. Rural families with substantial property but limited legal sophistication. Brandon is specifically targeting your community. I felt sick. This wasn't just financial fraud. This was systematic exploitation of Black families, weaponizing our community's vulnerabilities around heir property and land loss. Sarah, I need you to dig deeper. I need to know everything about Brandon's operation, his family's firm, his partners, his methods, everything. Deborah, if I keep digging, Brandon might notice. He could get suspicious. Let him get suspicious. I want to know what I'm dealing with before I make my next move. Over the next 3 months, Sarah uncovered a pattern that was both brilliant and horrifying. Brandon would research property records to identify elderly Black landowners with significant assets. He'd find social connections, church communities, community organizations. Then he'd engineer meetings that seemed coincidental. That charity auction where he'd met Jasmine? Brandon had researched our family first. He knew exactly who Jasmine was, exactly what the farm was worth, before he ever bid on that farm tour package. The courtship wasn't romance, it was reconnaissance. Sarah found more. Brandon's father, Robert, had been running this operation for 6 years. His brother, Michael, handled the financial structuring. His mother, Patricia, the retired judge, used her connections to get complaints dismissed. The entire family law firm was a criminal enterprise disguised as elder law practice. They'd stolen $18 million from elderly victims across North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia. Most of the victims were Black. Most were rural landowners. Most had families who didn't discover the theft until it was too late. And now Brandon was positioning himself to add my $3.2 million farm to that total. But here's what broke my heart most. When I showed Jasmine the preliminary evidence, the pattern of victims, the systematic targeting of Black families, she didn't believe me. Mama, this is conspiracy theory thinking. Brandon's firm handles a lot of estate cases. Of course, some clients are Black. We live in the South. That doesn't mean it's some racist plot. Baby, look at the numbers. Look at the pattern. I'm looking at my mother who can't accept that I married someone successful. Someone who doesn't need your money because he makes his own. Someone who wants to help us protect what we've built. Jasmine, please, just look at this evidence. Evidence? Or paranoid speculation from a mother who's been investigating my husband behind my back? How long have you been doing this, Mama? How long have you been spying on Brandon? 5 months. Jasmine's face went white. 5 months. You've been investigating my husband, the man I love, for 5 months, and you're just now telling me? I needed to be sure. You needed to be sure. Jasmine stood up. You know what I'm sure of? That you're never going to accept anyone I choose. That you're always going to find something wrong. That you'd rather believe your daughter married a criminal than admit you might be losing control. She walked out, and I sat there with my evidence, my recordings, my proof, wondering if I'd just destroyed my relationship with my daughter to protect her from a threat she refused to see. 2 weeks after that confrontation, Jasmine announced her wedding date, June 15th, 3 months away, and she made it clear I was invited as a guest, nothing more. Brandon and I are handling everything ourselves, Mama. We don't need your help, we don't need your money, and we definitely don't need your opinions about our marriage. The wedding planning became another weapon in Brandon's campaign. Every decision was designed to isolate me, to demonstrate that I was losing relevance in my daughter's life. We're having the reception at the farm, Jasmine told me over the phone. Brandon thought it would be meaningful to celebrate on the land that brought us together. The land he was planning to steal. That's nice, baby. Brandon's family is covering most of the costs. His parents want to do this for us. They're so generous, Mama. Not everyone treats family like a business transaction. The dig was intentional. Jasmine knew it would hurt. But while they planned the wedding, I was planning something else. Sarah Chen and I spent those 3 months building an airtight case. We documented every victim Brandon's firm had targeted. We traced the money through shell companies, offshore accounts, real estate transactions designed to hide assets. And we found the recording that would change everything. Sarah had managed to plant a listening device in Brandon's car during one of his visits to the farm. What we captured was Brandon on the phone with his brother Michael, discussing their operation with shocking candor. "The Fleming woman is being stubborn," Brandon's voice came through clear. "But she'll sign eventually. They always do once we get them at the wedding. 200 witnesses, emotional pressure, the daughter begging her to do the right thing. Works every time." Michael's voice, "What's the total take on this one?" $3.2 million in assets, but the land is the real prize, 850 acres of prime North Carolina farmland. We'll hold it for 5 years, then sell for development. We're talking common $5 million minimum. And the old woman? Won't be a problem much longer. I've been documenting her memory issues. Forgetfulness, confusion, repetitive questions. Building the case that she's incompetent. Once I'm trustee, her opinion doesn't matter. My hands shook as I listened. Memory issues. I'd been careful, so careful to hide my concerns about my occasional forgetfulness, the names I sometimes couldn't recall, the moments of confusion I attributed to stress. But Brandon had noticed, and he was weaponizing it. "What about the daughter?" Michael asked. "Jasmine's useful but naive. She actually thinks I love her. Once I have control of the farm, we'll maintain the marriage for appearance's sake. 5 years, maybe 10. Then divorce, and I walk away with half the estate value as marital property." I stopped the recording, played it again, made sure I'd heard correctly. Brandon had never loved Jasmine. The courtship, the proposal, the wedding, all of it was theater. A long con to steal our family's land. But here's what broke me. When I played the recording for Jasmine, she didn't believe it. "That's not Brandon's voice." "Baby, yes it is. Listen again." "No, Mama. You hired someone to fake this recording. You're so desperate to break us up that you've resorted to fabricating evidence. This is sick. This is beyond controlling. This is delusional." "Jasmine, I would never." "Yes, you would. You've done everything else. You've investigated him. You've spied on him. You've tried to turn me against him. Now you're creating fake evidence. I'm done, Mama. I'm done with your paranoia and your manipulation and your need to control every aspect of my life. Please, just listen to the whole thing." "I don't need to listen to anything. I know my husband. I know he loves me. And I know my mother is losing her grip on reality." Losing my grip on reality. Those words echoed in my mind for days. Was I? The forgetfulness I'd been trying to hide, the moments where I couldn't quite remember what I'd been doing, the confusion that sometimes descended like fog. Was Brandon right about my cognitive decline? Was I becoming the incompetent old woman he'd been describing? I made an appointment with my doctor. Dr. Morrison had been treating me for 20 years. She ran cognitive tests, memory assessments, neurological exams. "Deborah, I'm going to be straight with you. You're showing early signs of mild cognitive impairment. It's not dementia yet, but we need to monitor it carefully. The progression is unpredictable. Some people stay stable for years. Others decline rapidly. How long do I have before I can't manage my own affairs? That's impossible to predict. Could be 5 years, could be 10, could be longer. But Deborah, you need to start planning for the possibility that you'll need help managing complex decisions." The irony was devastating. Brandon's trust documents, his pressure to sign over control, his insistence that I needed professional management. He might actually be right, just for all the wrong reasons. I sat in Dr. Morrison's office, facing an impossible truth. I was losing my sharpness, the very thing that had protected me my entire life. My forensic accounting skills, my ability to spot fraud, my mental clarity, all of it was slowly slipping away. And the man trying to steal my farm had noticed before I was willing to admit it to myself. That night, I called Sarah Chen. How solid is our evidence against Brandon? Solid enough to interest law enforcement. But Deborah, the recording alone might not be enough. Defense attorneys could argue it was taken illegally, that it's inadmissible. We need more. What if we let Brandon think he's winning? What do you mean? The wedding is in 6 weeks. Brandon's planning to pressure me into signing documents at the reception. What if I let him think I'm ready to sign? What if we set a trap? That's risky. If something goes wrong, then I lose the farm. But Sarah, I'm losing my mind. Slowly, but definitely. If I don't stop Brandon now, while I still have the clarity to fight, Jasmine will be left vulnerable when I can't protect her anymore. You're sure about this? I thought about my great-great-grandfather buying 60 acres in 1898. I thought about 5 generations of Flemings who'd fought to keep this land. I thought about Jasmine, who didn't believe her mother was trying to save her. I'm sure. Let's give Brandon exactly what he wants. And then we'll show him what happens when you underestimate a black woman who's been fighting her whole life. The next Sunday, I called Jasmine. Baby, I've been thinking about what Brandon said, about the trust documents. Maybe I've been too stubborn. Maybe I do need help managing the farm. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, Mama, what are you saying? I'm saying maybe Brandon was right. I'm getting older. I forget things sometimes. The farm is complicated. Maybe it's time to let someone else handle the difficult decisions. Are you serious? I'm serious. Tell Brandon I'm ready to discuss the trust documents. At the wedding if he wants. In front of everyone. I want the family to witness that I'm doing this willingly, with a clear mind. I could hear the smile in Jasmine's voice. Mama, that's wonderful. Brandon will be so relieved. We both will. This is the right decision. I know, baby. I know. After I hung up, I sat on my porch and looked at those 850 acres. My ancestors had survived slavery, Jim Crow, every attempt to break them. And I would not be the generation that lost our land to a con artist in a suit. Brandon Carter thought he'd won. He had no idea the trap he was walking into. The 6 weeks before the wedding moved fast. Brandon was suddenly everywhere, helpful and attentive, making sure I was comfortable with everything, making sure I understood the documents I'd be signing. Miss Deborah, I'm so glad you've come around on this. It really is the best thing for everyone. For you, for Jasmine, for the family legacy. He brought revised trust documents every Sunday. Explained them slowly, carefully, like I was a child learning to read. See here? This clause protects you from any legal challenges, and this section ensures Jasmine will inherit everything when the time comes. You're making the right choice. What Brandon didn't know was that every conversation was being recorded. Every document he brought was being analyzed by Sarah Chen and a team of forensic attorneys she'd assembled. Every pressure tactic was being documented as evidence of elder abuse. He's getting sloppy, Sarah told me during one of our secret meetings. He thinks he's won, so he's not being as careful. Look at this clause buried on page 47. Once you sign, Brandon can sell any parcel of land without your approval. He can mortgage the property to fund investments. He can even lease your own home to a third party. You'd have no rights to the farm at all. Will this hold up in court? If we can prove coercion and fraud, absolutely. But Deborah, we need to catch him in the act. We need him to reveal his true intentions in front of witnesses. That's when I came up with the plan for the wedding reception. Brandon wants a public signing ceremony? Let's give him one. But let's also give him an audience for what comes after. Sarah smiled grimly. You want to play the recording at the reception. I want everyone to hear what he really thinks of me. Of Jasmine. I want his family, his colleagues, his friends to know exactly who they've been protecting. That's going to destroy your daughter's wedding day. Her wedding day is already a lie. Better she learns the truth now than after he's stolen everything. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Was I doing this to protect Jasmine, Or was I proving she was right, that I couldn't let go, that I'd rather destroy her happiness than admit I was wrong? The memory issues were getting worse. Just small things. I'd forget why I'd walked into a room. I'd lose track of conversations mid-sentence. I'd call Jasmine by my sister's name, dead now 10 years. What if I was wrong about Brandon? What if my declining mind was creating conspiracy theories from innocent actions? What if the real danger wasn't Brandon stealing the farm, but me losing the capacity to manage it and leaving Jasmine vulnerable? I called Dr. Morrison again. How do I know if my judgment is still sound? How do I know if what I'm perceiving is real or just paranoia from cognitive decline? Deborah, mild cognitive impairment affects memory, not judgment. Your ability to reason, to analyze situations, that's still intact. The question is, are you acting on evidence or on fear? Evidence. I have recordings, financial records, a pattern of victims. Then trust your evidence. Trust the person you've been for 59 years. Don't let fear of what might be coming make you doubt what you know right now. The wedding day arrived. June 15th. Perfect weather. 200 guests on my land. The ceremony was beautiful. Jasmine looked radiant in her white dress, so happy, so in love with a man who was planning to betray her. I sat in the front row and watched my daughter marry a predator. Watched Brandon's father Robert officiate, watched his mother Patricia smile with satisfaction, watched his brother Michael serve as best man, the whole criminal family celebrating their latest score. During the vows, Brandon looked at Jasmine with such convincing sincerity. I promise to protect you, to provide for you, to honor the family you come from, and the legacy we'll build together. Legacy. He was promising to steal her legacy while 200 people applauded. The reception was set up under a massive tent on the south field. Tables with white linens, flowers from Jasmine's favorite florist, a band playing jazz standards. Brandon had spared no expense, using his family's money to create the illusion of generosity. After dinner, after the toasts, Brandon stood up with a microphone. Everyone, if I could have your attention. Today isn't just about Jasmine and me starting our life together. It's also about family, about legacy, about protecting what generations have built. He gestured to me. Miss Deborah has worked this land for 35 years. 5 generations of Flemings have protected this farm. And today, Miss Deborah has agreed to ensure that this land stays in the family forever. Applause. People thought this was beautiful, a mother securing her daughter's inheritance. Brandon nodded to his brother Michael, who brought out a leather portfolio, the trust documents. Miss Deborah, if you'll join me up here, we can make this official. In front of everyone who loves you and Jasmine, you can sign the documents that will protect this farm for generations to come. I stood up slowly. Let people think I was old, uncertain. I walked to the front, accepted the microphone Brandon handed me. Thank you all for being here today, for celebrating with my daughter, for bearing witness to this important moment. I looked at Jasmine, radiant and trusting, at Brandon, confident and smiling, at his family, already counting their money. Before I sign anything, I want to make sure everyone understands what these documents actually say. Brandon, could you explain in your own words what I'm agreeing to? Brandon's smile tightened slightly. Of course, Miss Deborah. As I've explained many times, this irrevocable trust gives me authority to manage the farm on your behalf, to make complex financial and legal decisions, to ensure the property is protected from claims, liens, or partition sales, and you'll receive a fee for this service? A standard 2.5% trustee fee, yes, very reasonable in the industry. That's $80,000 a year. To manage a $3.2 million asset portfolio, yes. I nodded slowly. And if I sign this, I can't change my mind later? Even if I discover something about your management that concerns me? Irrevocable means permanent, yes, But Miss Deborah, you have no reason to be concerned. I'm family. I love Jasmine. I would never do anything to harm this family's interests. Never? Never. I turned to Sarah Chen, sitting at a table near the back. She nodded. That's interesting, Brandon, because I have a recording I'd like everyone to hear. A conversation you had with your brother Michael about 6 weeks ago. Would you like to explain what you meant when you said, and I quote, "The old woman won't be a problem much longer"? Brandon's face went white. Miss Deborah, I don't know what you're talking about. No? Then let me refresh your memory. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the reception's sound system, and I played the recording for all 200 guests to hear. Brandon's voice filled the tent. The Fleming woman is being stubborn, but she'll sign eventually. They always do once we get them at the wedding. Michael's voice, what's the total take on this one? $3.2 million in assets, but the land is the real prize. We'll hold it for 5 years, then sell for development. The tent erupted. Gasps, shouts, confusion. Jasmine stood frozen, her face a mask of shock. But I wasn't done. I kept the recording playing. What about the daughter? Jasmine's useful but naive. She actually thinks I love her. Jasmine's face crumpled. The sound that came from her was pure anguish. Brandon lunged for the phone, but Detective Hayes stepped forward from the crowd. I'd invited him, explained what we'd uncovered, asked him to be present for the confrontation. Brandon Carter, I need you to step away from Mrs. Fleming right now. The reception descended into chaos. Guests shouting, some rushing toward Brandon, others trying to comfort Jasmine. Brandon's father Robert pushed through the crowd. This is outrageous. Detective, that recording was obtained illegally. It's inadmissible. This is harassment of my son on his wedding day. Actually, Mr. Carter, we've been investigating your firm for the past 3 months based on evidence Mrs. Fleming provided. That recording is just one piece of a much larger case. Patricia Carter, the retired judge, stepped forward. Detective Hayes, I know the law. You can't arrest someone based on a private conversation taken out of context. My son has done nothing illegal. Nothing illegal? I found my voice. Stronger now. Clearer. Your son has been systematically targeting elderly black landowners across 4 states, stealing their property through fraudulent trust documents. My investigator found 23 victims, $18 million stolen, and your entire family is involved. Michael Carter tried to slip toward the exit. 2 more officers appeared, blocking his path. Detective Hayes pulled out handcuffs. Brandon Carter, you're under arrest for attempted fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit theft. You have the right to remain silent. This is insane, Brandon shouted. Miss Deborah is confused. She has memory problems. She's not competent to make these accusations. The court will see that. I might have memory problems, I said quietly, but I kept perfect records. Every conversation, every document, every pressure tactic. And I have a forensic accounting background that taught me exactly how to build a case that will stand up in court. Brandon's face shifted from anger to disbelief. You're a forensic accountant? Retired Fortune 500. 30 years auditing companies much bigger than your little operation. Did you really think I was just a simple farmer? The handcuffs clicked shut. Detective Hayes led Brandon away while his family shouted threats about lawsuits, while guests stood stunned, while my daughter collapsed into a chair, her white dress crumpling around her. I walked over to Jasmine, knelt beside her, my knees protesting. Baby, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you sooner. I wanted you to believe me, but I needed proof. I needed evidence so strong you couldn't deny it. Jasmine looked at me with eyes full of tears and something else. Something that looked like rage. You knew for 5 months. 5 months, Mama. You let me plan this wedding. You let me marry him. You stood there and watched me say vows to a man you knew was using me. Why didn't you stop the wedding? Why did you let it get this far? Because you wouldn't have believed me without proof. because I needed him to reveal himself in front of witnesses, because you wanted to be right. Jasmine's voice was cold. You wanted everyone to see that you were right and I was wrong. You wanted to prove that I made a mistake, that I should have listened to you, that I should never have trusted my own judgment. That's not true, isn't it? You've been investigating my boyfriend since I was in college. You've never trusted me to make my own decisions. And now you've used my wedding, the happiest day of my life, to prove a point. Jasmine, I was protecting you. No, Mama. You were controlling me, like you always do. And you know what the worst part is? You were right. Brandon was using me. He never loved me. Everything was a lie. And I'm gonna have to live with that. But I also have to live with the fact that my own mother let me marry a criminal just so she could expose him in the most humiliating way possible. She stood up, her wedding dress trailing in the grass. I need you to leave. Get off my wedding venue. Get away from me. I can't look at you right now. Baby, please. Go, Mama. Just go. I watched my daughter walk away, supported by her friends, leaving me standing alone in the wreckage of her wedding day. Around me, guests whispered, stared, took videos that would be all over social media within hours. I'd saved the farm. I'd exposed Brandon's criminal enterprise. I'd protected my daughter from a predator. And I'd lost her. Detective Hayes approached. Mrs. Fleming, we're going to need you to come to the station. Give a full statement. The FBI wants to get involved. This case crosses state lines. The FBI? We think Brandon's operation is bigger than we initially realized. Your evidence has opened up investigations in multiple states. This could take months, maybe years to fully prosecute. I looked across my land, the 850 acres 5 generations had protected. I'd saved it from Brandon Carter, but at what cost? Detective, give me 1 day. Let me make sure my affairs are in order. Then I'll tell you everything. That night I sat alone in the farmhouse. No daughter to celebrate with, no family gathering. Just me and the silence and the recordings that had destroyed my daughter's wedding day. My phone buzzed. Sarah Chen. Deborah, you did the right thing. You saved Jasmine from years of exploitation. She'll understand eventually. Will she? Because right now she thinks I prioritized being right over her happiness. You prioritized truth over comfort. That's different. Is it? Or am I just a controlling mother who couldn't let her daughter make her own choices, even terrible ones? Sarah didn't answer. Because she knew, like I knew, that the question wasn't simple. I'd saved the farm. But I'd broken my daughter's heart and destroyed her trust in the process. And I still didn't know if I'd made the right choice. 3 weeks passed. Jasmine wouldn't return my calls, wouldn't answer my texts. The annulment paperwork was filed within days of the wedding. Brandon was released on bail pending trial, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The media picked up the story. Black farmer exposes multi-million-dollar elder abuse scheme. Daughter's wedding day becomes courtroom drama. The headlines made me sound like a hero. But alone in my farmhouse, I felt like anything but. Sarah Chen kept me updated on the investigation. The FBI had seized Brandon's firm's records, frozen their accounts. They'd identified 47 victims across 4 states, not just 23. The total stolen was closer to $23 million, not $18 million. Brandon's entire family was facing federal charges. Deborah, you started something big. Other victims are coming forward. Families who thought they'd lost their land to bad luck are realizing they were targeted. You've exposed a systematic operation to steal Black-owned farmland. That's good. I'm glad. But my daughter still won't speak to me. Give her time. Time is something I might not have much of, Sarah. The memory issues are getting worse. It was true. I'd forgotten my doctor's appointment twice. I'd driven to town and couldn't remember why. I'd called my sister's name again, the sister who'd been dead for a decade. The cognitive decline Dr. Morrison had warned about was accelerating. I made another appointment. Dr. Morrison ran more tests, her expression growing more concerned. Deborah, the progression is faster than I'd hoped. I'm recommending you start planning for long-term care. You'll need someone with power of attorney soon. Someone who can make financial and medical decisions when you no longer can. My daughter won't even talk to me. Then you need to make legal arrangements with someone else. An attorney, a professional trustee. The irony was crushing. Brandon had been right. I did need professional management. I was declining, and now I had no one. I called Jasmine one more time, left a voicemail. Baby, I need to talk to you. Not about Brandon, about me, about my health. Please call me back. She didn't. That night, I got a visitor. Not Jasmine, Patricia Carter, Brandon's mother, the retired judge. She stood on my porch, perfectly composed, despite her son being under federal indictment. Mrs. Fleming, may I come in? Why would I let you in my house? Because I have information you need to hear. About your daughter. I opened the door. Patricia sat in my living room, looking around at the farmhouse with barely concealed disdain. You've caused my family considerable damage. Your family caused 47 families considerable damage. I just exposed it. Brandon made mistakes. I won't deny that, but what you did at that wedding was cruel. You could have handled it privately. You chose public humiliation. I chose to make sure everyone saw who your son really is. Patricia pulled out a folder. I'm here to offer you a deal. Drop the charges against Brandon. Refuse to cooperate with the FBI investigation. In exchange, I'll make sure Jasmine receives a settlement. $500,000. Enough to start over. You're trying to bribe me. I'm trying to protect my son, and offering you a way to help your daughter. She's devastated, Mrs. Fleming. Not just about Brandon. About you. About what you did. $500,000 would give her options. A fresh start. Where would you get $500,000? The FBI froze your assets. Patricia smiled coldly. We have resources they haven't found yet. Offshore accounts. Properties in my maiden name. The question is, do you care more about punishing my son or helping your daughter? I looked at this woman, this retired judge who'd used her position to protect her son's criminal enterprise, who was now trying to buy my silence. Get out of my house. Mrs. Fleming, be reasonable. Get out. Before I call Detective Hayes and tell him you just attempted to obstruct a federal investigation. Patricia stood, her composure cracking slightly. You're making a mistake. Your daughter will never forgive you. And when your mind goes, when you can't care for yourself anymore, you'll be alone. No daughter to help you, no family to visit, just an empty farmhouse and your righteous principles. After she left, I sat in the dark wondering if she was right. Was my need to see justice done worth losing my daughter, worth facing my decline alone? My phone rang. Finally, Jasmine. Mama, Patricia Carter just called me. Told me about her offer. Told me you turned it down. Baby, I couldn't take that money. It's blood money. I know. Jasmine's voice was quiet. I told her if she ever contacts me again, I'd report her to the FBI myself. You did? Mama, I'm still angry at you. I'm still processing everything, but I'm not going to let Brandon's family manipulate us. We're not for sale. Does this mean you'll talk to me? Long silence. It means I'm thinking about it. It means I'm trying to understand why you did what you did. It doesn't mean I forgive you yet. That's fair. Mama, Patricia said something else. About your health. About you declining. Is that true? I closed my eyes. Yes, baby. I have early cognitive impairment. It's progressing faster than expected. I'm going to need help soon. Why didn't you tell me? Because you had your own crisis to deal with. Because I didn't want to burden you. Because I'm stubborn and scared, and I don't know how to ask for help. Another long silence. Then, I'll come by tomorrow. We need to talk. About everything. Thank you, baby. After we hung up, I sat on my porch looking at the land 5 generations had protected. I'd saved it from Brandon Carter. But I'd done it by keeping secrets from my daughter, by investigating her husband behind her back, by choosing the dramatic confrontation over private honesty. I'd won. But the victory felt hollow. And tomorrow, I'd have to tell Jasmine the full truth about my declining mind and face the reality that the farm I'd fought so hard to protect might need exactly what Brandon had been offering: professional management by someone I could trust. The question was, after everything I'd done, would Jasmine ever trust me again? Jasmine arrived the next morning. No hug, no smile. Just a careful distance as she sat across from me at the kitchen table where we'd shared so many Sunday dinners. "Tell me everything. About your health. Don't leave anything out," I told her. About the first signs I'd noticed 2 years ago, the forgetfulness, the confusion. About Dr. Morrison's diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment. About the progression that was happening faster than anyone expected. "How long have you known?" I got the official diagnosis 8 months ago, right before Brandon started pushing the trust documents. Jasmine's face went pale. "So when Brandon said you needed professional management, when he documented your memory issues, he was actually right?" "Technically, yes. I do need help managing complex decisions. I will need someone with legal authority eventually. But Brandon didn't want to help me. He wanted to exploit my vulnerability." "But Mama, if you knew you were declining, why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me think you were just being paranoid and controlling?" "Because I was ashamed. Because admitting I'm losing my sharpness felt like admitting I'm losing everything. And because I needed to stop Brandon before I lost the capacity to fight him." Jasmine put her head in her hands. "This is so much worse than I thought. Brandon saw you declining and decided to use it against you. He researched your medical records, documented your symptoms, and built a case for your incompetence, all while pretending to help. That's exactly what he did. And I helped him. Every time you resisted, every time you questioned him, I told you that you were being stubborn, that you needed to listen to him. I was helping him steal from you. Baby, you didn't know. I should have known. I should have listened to you. But I was so desperate to prove I could make my own decisions, to show you that I didn't need your protection, that I ignored every warning sign. We sat in silence. The distance between us felt like miles. Finally, Jasmine spoke. "Mama, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. Did you let the wedding happen because you wanted to humiliate me? Did you want to prove that I'd made a terrible choice?" The question I'd been dreading. The one I'd been asking myself for weeks. I don't know. I told myself I was gathering evidence, that I needed to catch Brandon in the act, that I was protecting you. But baby, there's truth in what you said. Part of me did want to be right. Part of me wanted you to see that I'd been protecting you all along, that my investigations and my warnings weren't just controlling behavior. So you used my wedding to prove a point. I used your wedding to expose a criminal. But yes, there was ego involved. There was a need to be vindicated. And I'm sorry. I should have found another way. Jasmine wiped her eyes. I spent my whole life trying to escape your protection. Trying to prove I didn't need you watching over me. And the one time I really did need protection, I pushed you away because I couldn't stand being wrong. You weren't wrong to want independence. You weren't wrong to want to make your own choices. But I was wrong about Brandon, and I was wrong about you. I accused you of being paranoid when you were actually building a case against a criminal. I told you that you were losing your mind when you were literally losing your mind but still thinking clearly enough to save our family. We were both wrong, and we were both right. That's what makes this so complicated. Jasmine reached across the table, took my hand. The first physical contact since the wedding. "Mama, we need to talk about the farm, about what happens next, about who manages things when you can't anymore. I know, I've been avoiding it because every solution feels wrong. I can't trust professional trustees after Brandon. I can't ask you to give up your career to manage a farm. I can't. What if I want to? Want to what? Manage the farm, learn everything you know, take over when you're ready to step back. Baby, you have an MBA. You could work anywhere. I have an MBA in agricultural business that I've never used because I was too busy trying to escape everything connected to this farm. But Mama, this land is my legacy too. 5 generations of Flemings fought to keep it. I'm not going to be the generation that lets it go. What about your career? Your life in Raleigh? What career? What life? I just had my wedding annulled. I'm unemployed. I'm living with a friend and trying to figure out who I am after discovering my husband never loved me. Coming home doesn't feel like giving up. It feels like the only thing that makes sense right now. I searched her face for resentment, for obligation, for the sacrifice I knew she was making, but what I saw was determination. Are you sure? No. I'm not sure about anything right now, but I'm sure that I don't want to lose this farm. And I'm sure that I don't want you to face your decline alone. So, let's figure it out, together, the way we should have been doing all along. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. There's a lot you'd need to learn: estate planning, property management, crop rotation, timber rights. It's not easy. You managed it while working a full-time job at a Fortune 500 company. I think I can handle it. And the memory issues, the decline, watching me forget things, repeat myself, eventually not recognize you. Jasmine squeezed my hand. I'll handle that too. Because that's what daughters do for their mothers. Even daughters who are still angry. Even daughters who are still processing betrayal. Even daughters who need time to forgive. You don't have to forgive me. I know. But I want to try. Not today. Maybe not for a long time. But eventually, I want us to get back to a place where we trust each other, where we don't keep secrets, where we don't use investigations and dramatic confrontations to communicate. That sounds good. Mama, one more thing. The recording you played at the wedding, do you still have it? Yes. Why? I want to hear the whole thing, not just the parts you played publicly. I want to know everything Brandon said, everything he planned. I need to understand exactly who I married, and I need to do it without you protecting me from the worst parts. I played Jasmine the full recording, all 47 minutes, every cold calculation, every manipulation, every detail of how Brandon planned to drain the farm's assets while keeping her dependent on him. When it ended, Jasmine sat in silence for a long time. He said I was useful, but naive. That's what hurts most. Not that he didn't love me, but that he thought I was too stupid to see through him. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. Is there? Because right now I feel like the biggest fool in North Carolina. Brandon fooled 47 families. Educated people, successful people, people who should have seen the signs. He was good at what he did. What he did was criminal, and I almost helped him do it to you. Over the next 6 months, Jasmine moved back to the farm. We established new routines. She took over the financial management, met with the lawyers handling Brandon's prosecution, learned every aspect of the operation. The trial started in November. Brandon pleaded not guilty, claimed the recording was taken out of context, that he genuinely wanted to help his mother-in-law. His attorneys painted me as a paranoid woman with cognitive issues who'd misinterpreted professional advice as criminal intent. Jasmine testified, told the court about Brandon's pressure tactics, his isolation strategies, the way he documented my supposed incompetence. Her testimony was devastating. The jury deliberated for 3 days, found Brandon guilty on 23 counts of elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. His father Robert and brother Michael were convicted on related charges. His mother, Patricia, the retired judge, was disbarred and faces her own trial for obstruction. Brandon was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison, no parole eligibility for at least 15 years. The day of sentencing, Jasmine and I sat in the courtroom and watched him be led away. He looked at her once, his face full of something that might have been regret or might have been anger at getting caught. "Do you feel anything for him?" I asked her later. "Honestly, relief. That he's gone. That other families are protected. That I don't have to wonder anymore if I made the right choice leaving him." Any part of you that wishes it had been real? Every part of me wishes it had been real, but wishing doesn't change what he was. By spring, my cognitive decline was undeniable. I'd forget entire conversations, mix up dates, call Jasmine by my sister's name more often than her own. Doctor Morrison recommended we establish legal guardianship while I still had capacity to consent. Jasmine became my power of attorney. We set up a legitimate trust, this time managed by a team of attorneys Sarah Chen had vetted thoroughly. Jasmine would make decisions with oversight from professionals who had no financial incentive to exploit us. "This is what Brandon's trust should have been," Jasmine said as we signed the papers. "Protection, not exploitation. Transparency, not control." "Are you scared, taking on this responsibility?" "Terrified. But Mama, I'm more scared of losing you to this disease without having tried to help. I'm more scared of letting this farm go because we were too proud or too stubborn to ask for the right kind of help. We sold 180 acres to cover the legal fees from Brandon's prosecution. $580,000 spent to protect the remaining 670 acres. It hurt, losing generational land. But it was the cost of justice. The FBI's investigation expanded. They found evidence of similar schemes in 7 states, over 200 victims, most of them elderly Black landowners. Brandon's operation was part of a larger pattern of targeting our community's most valuable asset, land. Several families reached out to thank me. Said my exposure of Brandon had helped them recover stolen property, had given them courage to fight their own cases. "You started something important," Sarah Chen told me. "You protected more than just your farm." But late at night, when the memory fog was worst, when I couldn't remember what year it was or whether my sister was still alive, I wondered if the cost had been worth it. I'd saved the farm by sacrificing my relationship with my daughter. I'd exposed a criminal by destroying her wedding. I'd protected future victims by humiliating her in front of 200 people. I was right. But being right had required me to be cruel. And I still didn't know if I'd make the same choices again. 1 year after the wedding that never was, Jasmine and I were walking through the south field, checking the pecan trees before harvest. I'd had a good morning, memory clear, thoughts sharp. These moments were becoming rarer. "Mama," Detective Hayes called yesterday. "They arrested 3 more attorneys in Georgia. Brandon's cooperating, giving them names in exchange for a reduced sentence." "Reduced to what?" 18 years instead of 22. The prosecutor thinks his testimony will take down a network that spans 9 states now. "Do you think he deserves the reduction?" Jasmine was quiet for a moment. "I think he's still manipulating the system, still finding ways to win even when he's lost. But if his cooperation protects other families, then yes. It's worth it." We walked in silence. I forgot where we were going, then remembered, then forgot again. "Mama, do you know who I am right now?" "You're Jasmine. My daughter. The smart one who came home." "Good, because yesterday you called me Patricia twice. Do you remember that?" I didn't. The gaps were growing. Dr. Morrison wants to talk to us about memory care facilities. Places where you'd have 24-hour support when the decline gets worse. I don't want to leave the farm. I know. But Mama, I can't provide the level of care you'll need eventually. Neither of us wants to admit that, but it's true. She was right. The same choice I'd spent years avoiding was coming anyway. Who manages the farm when I can't? Who takes care of me when my mind is gone? Who makes decisions I'm no longer capable of making? "There's irony in this, you know," I said. Brandon was right. I did need professional management. I did need someone to take control. He just wanted to steal instead of help. The difference is choice, Mama. You're choosing who helps you. You're choosing how the farm is managed. Brandon wanted to take that choice away. We reached the old oak tree where my great-great-grandfather had carved his initials in 1898, 5 generations of Flemings. And now Jasmine would be the 6th. Baby, I need to tell you something while I'm still clear enough to say it properly. Okay, I'm sorry. For investigating Brandon behind your back. For not trusting you to handle your own life. For using your wedding as the stage for his exposure. I told myself I was protecting you, but I was also controlling you, and I can't die without you knowing that I see the difference. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. Mama, I'm sorry too. For not listening when you tried to warn me. For choosing Brandon over you. For calling you paranoid when you were actually saving us. We were both right and both wrong. That's the truth of it. Is it possible to forgive each other for being both? I don't know, but I'd like to try. Jasmine took my hand. We stood under that oak tree, on land that had survived slavery, Jim Crow, the Depression, integration, and now a 21st century con artist in a suit. Mama, I've been thinking about Brandon's victims, the families who lost their land. Sarah Chen and I want to start a legal fund, help families fight predatory trustees, and recover stolen property. Use part of the farm's profits to fund it. That's beautiful. Your grandmother would be proud. Which grandmother? I couldn't remember. The names were slipping away, but I knew the feeling, pride, hope, the sense that maybe the pain hadn't been for nothing. The one who taught you to fight. That was you, Mama. You taught me to fight. 8 months later, I moved into a memory care facility in Durham. Jasmine visited 3 times a week. Sometimes I knew her. Sometimes I thought she was my sister. Sometimes I didn't know anyone at all. The farm continued under Jasmine's management, with oversight from the trust we'd established. The legal fund helped 23 families recover property stolen through elder abuse schemes. Brandon served his 18 years and was released to a world that knew exactly who he was. On my good days, I remembered everything. The recordings, the wedding, the moment I played that audio for 200 shocked guests. I remembered my daughter's face, the betrayal and humiliation, the anger that took months to heal. On my bad days, I forgot I had a daughter at all. But whether I remembered or not, the farm remained. 670 acres of North Carolina land that 5 generations had protected, and 1 generation had nearly lost to a predator in a suit. I'd saved it by keeping secrets, by investigating without permission, by choosing the most painful method of exposure imaginable. I'd destroyed my daughter's wedding to expose her husband's crime. I'd been right, and it had cost us almost everything. But we'd survived, scarred, complicated, still learning to trust each other, but we'd survived. And sometimes, that's the only victory available. Not the clean triumph where everyone learns their lesson and lives happily ever after, but the messy, painful, expensive kind where you protect what matters most and live with the cost of your choices. I'm Deborah Fleming. I saved my farm. I destroyed my daughter's wedding. I exposed a criminal enterprise. And I learned that being right doesn't make you righteous, that protection can look like control, and that sometimes the people you save are the ones who have the hardest time forgiving you. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because the truth is never as simple as heroes and villains. Sometimes it's just complicated people making impossible choices and hoping they can live with the consequences. The land remembers everything. The people, we just do our best. That is Deborah's story. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city, what country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these powerful stories about family, protection, and the price of being right. Real question. If you were Deborah, what would you have done? Would you have told Jasmine about Brandon immediately, even knowing she wouldn't believe you? Would you have stopped the wedding before it happened? Or would you have done exactly what Deborah did and exposed Brandon in front of 200 guests at the reception? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone who's ever been in an impossible situation, where protecting someone you love meant hurting them in the process. Someone who had to choose between letting their child make a terrible mistake or intervening in a way that felt controlling. Someone who was right but wishes they'd been wrong because being right costs too much. And subscribe for more raw, real stories about elder abuse, family betrayal, the complicated line between protection and control, and what happens when the people trying to save you are the ones you can't forgive. Thanks for watching. Sometimes the people who protect us are the people we can't forgive. Sometimes being right means being cruel. Sometimes saving someone requires destroying the life they thought they had. And sometimes the cost of justice is so high you wonder if winning was worth it. See you in the next video.